I have the pleasure of introducing Senator Bernie Sanders to our lunch today. So some of you may not know Bernie's long history with employee ownership. For those of you who don't know me, Cindy Turcot, Gardner's Supply Company. I was actually the founding chair of the Vermont Employee Ownership Center back when Bernie really helped us get up and going, and currently serve on the board. So for those of you who didn't know, Bernie first discussed employee ownership back in the 80s when he was the mayor of Burlington. So he really ahead of his time on all of this topic of employee ownership. And he was a great supporter of Gardner Supply's mission and our employee aspirations as we became employee owned in the late 1980s. In 1990, when Bernie was elected to Congress, he continued to support Vermont companies in advancing employee ownership. Every year when I went down to Washington, D.C. to the VEOC conference, I would head, back then they had this congressional reception that was held every year, and all of the House and Senate was invited to this event, but actually very few showed up. It was held on Capitol Hill. I had really fancy food so that hopefully the staffers and the Congress people would attend. And all of the attendees at the conference would go there and hope that their member of Congress would show up. And back then, I knew no one in the ESOP community. I was the only Vermonter, and I would go to that reception because what I did know is that Bernie would show up. And sure enough, I would hear the announcement, and there he would be, one of only a dozen or so congresspeople that attended our reception. And he would listen to what was happening in our company, and he would encourage and support any bill that was in Congress for employee ownership. And that continued. When we started the Vermont Employee Ownership Center, we were in desperate need of funding. We were approaching foundations, the state, Vermonters, anyone that might give us money to continue our great work. And in 2001, Bernie came through with our first seed money of $150,000 through HUD. But with that, he expected results. He supported us, but he also pushed us to make sure we were serving all parts of Vermont, and that we were aggressive in our pursuit of employee ownership for our state. And look where we are here today, a record-breaking 234 conference attendees, and Vermont now having the highest per capita of employee ownership in the United States. Bernie continues to push employee ownership. He's sponsoring 2 employee ownership bills in Congress. He meets with the Vermont ESOP companies every year in May. We were just there when we're in D.C. And very soon, I hope, he'll be posting a Facebook video of Dave Fitzgerald and I talking about employee ownership, a video his team organized when we were down there in D.C. We thank you for all your support over the decades and welcome you to the Vermont Employee Ownership Center's 16th annual conference. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you very much, Cindy, not only for the introduction and for helping to organize this conference, but for the work you have done for so many years. As Cindy indicated, from way back when, I have strongly believed in the concept of employee ownership. We live in an economy which has enormous challenges and which is changing every day as a result of technology, bad trade agreements, etc. And it has always seemed to me that when we talk about democracy in a nation, by the way, which has one of the lowest voter turnouts of any major country on earth, when we talk about revitalizing democracy, when we talk about getting people in general involved in the process, what we are talking about through employee ownership is something pretty profound. And that is what we are all saying is that when somebody goes to work tomorrow, that person should not consider himself or herself just a cog in a machine. And right now, all across this country, today, millions of people get up in the morning, they say, oh God, it's not Saturday, it's only Friday. I hate it, but I gotta make a living and I need some health care. Gotta take care of my family. Oh God, Please, I've got to go to work. Think about it for a moment. People spend 40, 50, 60 hours a week at work, and millions of people hate having to go to work. And what ESOPs are about, what employee ownership about, is turning that around in so many ways. It is saying, for a start, that you can have a more productive and profitable company when you listen to all of the people who are working. Every good leader in the economy understands that people at the top do not know it all. All kinds of things are happening at the bottom, problems, solutions, and that it is totally crazy not to be listening to people who actually do the work. And when you have employee ownership, what you're saying is, hey, we are all in this together. Our job is to make this company as productive as it possibly can. What is your idea? What is your idea? You're down there in the basement. How can we do things better? And when we do that, we treat people as intelligent human beings and not just as somebody to be paid to do a job for 40 hours a week. And what is the results of all that? All of the studies indicate what common sense would suggest to be the case. If you go to work and you feel like you are respected, if you go to work and you feel that you are part of the process, guess what? You're going to miss work less often. Absenteeism goes down. If you know that your ideas are listened to and you're treated as a human being, productivity goes up. Profits go up. Morale goes up. People do not bemoan the fact that they have got to go to work. They feel proud of the company that they are working for, and they want to do everything possible to make that company even better. So the reason that I am a big, big fan of employee ownership is I want to see every worker in this country be asked to produce intellectually and ideas as much as he or she can. Give you an example of something that I noticed when I was mayor, and it distressed me very much, and I've never forgotten it. We had in the water department in the city of Burlington was a small division. Turns out the supervisor was retiring, and he was the best paid person in the division. And I went to the remaining workers in the division, and I said, look, this guy is retiring, and that's a lot of money that the city of Burlington is not going to have to pay out. And we are willing to raise each and every one of your salaries rather significantly. And we'll use some of that money to go back into the city, but you're all going to get very significant wage increases, but you got to do one thing. You have to take responsibility for running that division, because that guy is no longer going to be there. Workers chose not to take that responsibility. City lost money, we have to hire another supervisor. But the goal is to give people more responsibility. The goal is to make it clear that we want people to grow on the job and that that is the best way to run a company. So I am very proud, I really am, as somebody who has been dealing with this issue for many years, to see more and more companies thinking about employee ownership. Now, at a time when the Congress, against my vote, voted to give $1 trillion in tax breaks to the top 1% and the very profitable private corporations, it seems to me that we should start making some serious money available to those companies who want to transition away from an individual owner of a company to employee ownership of a company. So if you have, as you have in Vermont, and in fact all over this country, somebody starts a company when he or she is young, they work hard, the company grows, and then that person is about to retire. Very often, that employer respects his or her employees, has worked with them, knows that the success of the company has been based on their work, wants to do the right thing, would like to transit that company into employee ownership, but it is hard to do. So we want to make sure that there are tax benefits and other benefits. We want to make sure that employers have the knowledge to know how to deal with what is sometimes complicated. We're going to work hard on that. We're going to work even harder, because I believe that at a time where there is so much uncertainty in the economy, that there is nothing more important than people feeling proud of the work, knowing that they own the places in which they work. So we've made some good progress. Vermont is clearly one of the states leading the nation, but let's figure out how we can go even further. And I look forward to working with all of you to make that happen. Thank you so much.